Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. This morning, we continue the conversation about how to keep everybody safe this Christmas season. To do so, we welcome Trinidad Tobago Fire Service, and representing the Fire Service, we have Fire Prevention Officer Jude Rogers and Fire Prevention Officer Nigel Davis. Good morning to you both, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are we doing this morning?
Excellent.
This morning.
Yeah, right, Nigel?
Yes.
All right. Good to have you on this morning. Jude, we always talk about this at this time of the year. Of course, we did earlier this year speak about Fire Prevention Month and all that stuff. But as we get ready for Christmas, we know people love to plug in all the lights. We have baking going on. We have cooking going on. We have all this preparation for Christmas. Tell me what safety measures we should be putting in place as we get ready for Christmas.
Right, so just be mindful. I will draw to the statistics which point to the fact that around this period we have an uptick in fires. A lot of it associated with the activities of Christmas. So we felt it important to come on here today and to have a little discussion about that. We want persons to be mindful as they're going about the holiday period. We're pretty busy. We're cooking. We're doing a lot of decorations, and we're adding a lot more electricity loading to our circuits. I want persons to be mindful. Don't take chances with that. Pay close attention to how we add all these items on, especially Christmas lights. You know, I come here every year and I talk about Christmas lights, and I point out the fact that we should not be putting more than 3 strings of lights into each other onto one particular circuit. So no overloading of circuits. I also want persons to pay attention to the baking, the cooking. A lot of items have been left unattended because we're busy doing multiple things on multiple levels. Exactly. Yeah. So, those unguarded moments are what we want persons to look out for, and a general, change in our mindset as to how we view fire. Fire is not going to happen to me. And that's the change that we want to see.
In terms of being ready for when that fire happens, or if, God forbid, that fire happens in your situation or your house, what sort of things should you have on standby or be ready to be able to execute immediately? Nigel, let me jump across to you to ask that one.
Most times, when things occur, you want to have some form of mitigation, something you could use to intervene. So, for instance, if something happens to you at work, you have an emergency contact.
Right.
Same thing with your environment. You want to have something that can assist you. So, generally with fire, we'd recommend you have a ABC type, or what you call dry chemical type extinguisher. So at least it could afford some type of intervention prior to you making contact with the fire service, which you should, even if you do extinguish the fire, so that we could do an investigation and give better recommendations. So moving forward, your environment will be safer.
All right, so we need to all make sure we have extinguishers at home.
That's the basic. Then you want to have at least smoke detectors.
Right.
So that will give you an indication when you're unaware of something happening. As Officer Rogers indicated, most times is when you're unaware, these things tend to escalate.
Right.
So with the Christmas season, people tend to be so preoccupied with preparation that they could be even exhausted
and fall
asleep.
Right.
As you say, leave things unattended. So with all that dynamic, you have an increased potential of things occurring.
You mentioned smoke detectors, and I know we've spoken about it on the show in the past, but just a reminder, where in the house should we be placing smoke detectors? Because I know that it'll be difficult to have a smoke detector in the kitchen if you're always cooking, right? So tell me where we should be placing smoke detectors in the house.
Right, so for those of us who are not aware, smoke detectors should be in every bedroom, right? I always come on with the slogan, hear the beep where you sleep. It's so important. 2 a.m. in the morning when there's a fire, it takes a little while, and when it kindles, you want to be able to be awakened. All right, we want that indication to come within the first 30 seconds, because you really only have 3 minutes to evacuate your home or attack a particular fire. You want to catch that in the early stage. So we want them in each bedroom, and for the kitchen, fortunately, there are standalone or battery-operated heat detectors. So once the fire ensues to a particular temperature, and you don't want that that smoke detector going off, and it's a false alarm. So we will not place smoke detectors in the kitchen. We will use a heat detector.
A heat detector instead. Nigel, let me jump back across to you to ask about evacuation, because after your smoke detector goes off in your bedroom, should you already have a pre-planned evacuation route?
You should. And even when you're addressing the fire, that is part of the evacuation. Because you don't want to go into addressing the fire where you are unable to exit if something were to occur. So evacuation is not just something you do when things go wrong, but it's part of the process even when you start to initiate. So you should have not just one, but at least 2 routes because you don't know if something could compromise one, or there could be something that could, because it's a dynamic environment, something could escalate, elevate, or the dynamics change. So you want to be able to clearly have the area designated that you're going to a route, how you're going to get there, what you're going to do when you're there. Those things clearly mapped, because when an incident occurs, you're going to be a little, panicked, unaware, things,
Slightly overwhelmed.
Things like that.
Jude, how important is it? We spoke just now in the segment before about safety for children.
Oh, yeah.
How important is it for children to be aware of that evacuation route and to rehearse it as well?
Well, interestingly enough, I believe that evacuation plan is part of, everyone in the family has to be part of the plan, but in particularly children, because they react very differently to an adult. In most cases, children will either become flustered, they may hide, because they're fearing danger, so they may, and you don't want a child to be doing the opposite of what they should be doing during an evacuation. So we really want to practice. Practice is going to make perfect in this situation, and so we recommended that households at least every quarter that you do your drill with your kids. They should know the routes. I remember practicing with my daughter, always would drill that into her. She understands, she looks up the corridor, there are two exits, one down to the back entrance and the front entrance. She knows the muster point is the street light over the road, upwind of my home. And I can be guaranteed that she's going to be at that muster point. Even when I do my checks, I know she's going to be there because we've drilled that into her. And that's part of what we do. So children must be made aware and practice. I say play a little game with the kids, and they get to understand what is expected of them, and they're going to remember in time of danger.
In terms of, you mentioned looking up and down the corridor in your situation, right? In terms of people who have maybe 2-story, 3-story houses, as the case may be, what sort of challenges do those pose when it comes to fire and escaping or evacuation?
Well, there are a couple of challenges that when you have an above ground or you have a first floor, even a second floor, and we also have to speak about burglar proofing,
right?
Because we do have challenges with that. And written into the laws, the small building codes that we have in Trinidad and Tobago now, together with the Bureau of Standards, our department has instituted that these buildings must now have fire escape burglar proofing. So these are burglar proofing where the bedrooms, they have the ability to open, and you can actually make your exit through the windows. So you've now afforded yourself a third option or even a second option if you didn't have that in before. So it's very important to understand that, and we want to ensure that persons are, especially new construction, you're going to get more of the new construction.
Does that also apply to condos and apartments?
Oh yeah,
and things
definitely,
of that nature
definitely.
As
So
well?
as we issue, fire service is responsible for issuing requirements through the Town and Country Division and the Borough Corporations. When the plans come to us, we make those recommendations. All right, and it's part of your final certification.
Nigel, have you seen people continue to adhere to these rules over time? When you go to I don't know if you're still going on fire calls and things, but if you're going on calls, do you still see people, you go into house and you see, well, this situation happened and it could have been avoided if you followed the building code?
When you look at an incident, there's always the point of view that you can, what you could have done,
right?
If
hindsight is 2020,
right? I think one of the greatest challenges is the way we view rules. We think that it's something to prohibit you from something, can't, don't, shouldn't, restriction, where it actually affords you something because it gives you a context as to how to operate. So for instance, don't put clothes in your oven. That doesn't sound like that big of a rule. But think about it, there are some people who do that because they may say it's damp, I want to dry it.
To get crispy.
We have those old school
That's very interesting. Yes, the old school, you put it on the back.
You put it on the back, the little
That's also a fire hazard. But I learned this for the first time because when I had one of those, trying to put the socks in the back, they to dry.
Put everything in the back and you push it against the wall because you want to make sure the warmth stay,
You had to wear them clothes the next morning?
Or the next hour. And that's the thing. The thing is, these things create risk. You may get away 400 times. But all you need is one incident, and that incident will impact you to such great magnitude that you will wish that, you could have done something before. And that's why it's more about being mindful. It's not about seeing it as rules, just like I said, because there are things you could do. we are free. You can make choices. Nobody can't, right? We view that type of statement. Nobody can keep me
Nobody
back.
can tell me what to do.
Nobody can hold me down, right?
They're fighting me.
They're fighting me, right? But again, these things are to afford you longevity.
Yeah, and safety.
And safety, because you don't want that something, were to happen to you, and you could have. So you want to kind of address most, not everything, because you wouldn't want to live in a bubble.
Or cage, as the case may be.
We try to address as much as we could.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of responsibility, as you said, that's quite simple. Don't do, and they're basic things for your well-being.
Gentlemen, I must say thank you very much for joining us this morning and sharing these tidbits of knowledge. I learned something about the back of the fridge. I didn't know that part was dangerous, but thanks for sharing that with me. This morning, before we wrap up though, Jude, I want you to introduce the videos. We have some videos we want to share with the nation as we get into the season, and we want people to be as prepared as possible. So I'm going to hand it over to you to toss to the videos.
All right, so we would have recognized that social media and also television being one of the best ways to communicate with the public. And so we've created some videos that will remind our citizens what they should be doing during the Christmas period. Even the business community, as you stock up for the Christmas and as you have a lot of more persons coming in, let's take cognizance of the videos. Let's see. Here are some fire safety tips to safeguard your business, employees, and customers. Be aware of the dangers of overstocking goods in the aisles, near exits and entrances, narrowing the exit width. Keep goods a minimum of 18 inches from ceilings and lighting fixtures. All fire safety protection equipment and signage must be clearly visible and unobstructed. All employees should be trained in the proper use of fire extinguishers and evacuation drill procedures, even temporary workers. Reduce the accumulation of combustible materials which can escalate the risk of fires and prevent safe evacuation. Ensure proper housekeeping is constantly maintained during the holiday period with a clean-as-you-go policy in place. Remember, fire safety begins with you. Unpredictable and can escalate rapidly.
Making the wrong decision can cost you all your possessions and even your life.
In the event of a fire, you can either fight or flight.
Small fires should be extinguished using an extinguisher by trained personnel only.
However, if a fire reaches the ceiling, do not attempt to fight the fire. You should evacuate immediately using the following steps.
Raise an alarm.
Call the fire service at 990.
Evacuate. Move briskly. Do not run, as this can create panic.
Never go in search of possessions.
Assemble at the muster point. Conduct a roll call to ensure everyone is accounted for.
Give the results of the roll call and other relevant information to the fire service personnel on arrival.
Remember, fire safety begins with you.
Right. Tell us right now you're rocket scientist. I just going with it. Okay. But are there particular things you want me to ask you so you get the chance to mention for sure? We will talk about your passion projects for sure. Mm-hmm. We will, if it's okay with you, talk about some of the discomfort that you might have felt in the pageant altogether, because it's not an easy thing. Yeah. And the last bit of controversy with pageants generally would have been Miss Universe and that sort. Is that something you're okay talking about, or you'd rather not?
I'd rather not.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to behave like it didn't happen, no?
No.
So,
I just rather not.
So, yeah, we will skim, if you will. After that, what is next for you? When is the actual grand pageant?
So we're not aware of the location, the host country.
Yeah, one?
No, we don't know the time, but we are preparing for April.
Okay. Have you been into pageants before?
No, this is my first ever pageant.
No pressure.
No
First
pressure
one, and they like,
at all.
damn, crown.
Crown.
Love that.